Welcome back, everyone. We're diving into something a little different today. We're taking a deep dive into Richard Denny's Succeed for Yourself.
Oh, yeah, I've heard of this one. It's not your typical get rich quick kind of book, right?
Definitely not.
Yeah.
There are tons of books out there that promise to reveal those secrets to success.
Yeah.
But Denny's book really stood out to me
Hmm.
because he goes beyond just money and career achievements. He dives into this really fascinating connection between success and something we all want, happiness.
Right. Like they're not two separate things.
Exactly. He argues that happiness isn't just a result of success, it's actually the foundation.
Makes sense.
And you know what's interesting? He actually achieved financial success really young,
Oh, wow.
but it wasn't what he expected at all. It actually put a strain on his relationships,
I can see that happening.
and he was left feeling kind of empty.
Yeah, money doesn't buy happiness, as they say.
Well, Denny says at one point he had all the money you could imagine, but he realized he wasn't really successful because he wasn't happy.
Right, so his own experience kind of proves his point, right?
Exactly. It's a good reminder that money and possessions don't automatically equal a fulfilling life.
Definitely.
Denny really pushes us to redefine success, on our own terms,
Yeah.
and to put happiness front and center.
Okay, so then how do we actually get this happiness?
Well, Denny lays out three main principles:
Okay.
having something to look forward to,
Makes sense.
sharing with others,
Okay.
and making others happy.
I like that. So
Yeah.
it's not just about ourselves.
Right. And it's fascinating how he contrasts the kind of fleeting joy of winning the lottery
Yeah, okay.
with the longer lasting fulfillment we get from, actually putting in the work and accomplishing things.
So like one is a quick hit and the other is more sustainable.
Exactly. He compares it to the difference between the sugar rush from a candy bar and the energy you get from a healthy meal.
Ah, I get it.
One is intense but fades quickly, and the other nourishes you over time.
Oh, okay, that's a good analogy.
He even tells this story about overhearing a conversation
Oh,
between a shop assistant and a customer.
okay.
They were talking about the lottery, and both of them were pinning all their hopes for happiness on winning.
Putting all their eggs in one basket.
Exactly. And Denny uses this to illustrate how focusing on external events like that can limit our view of happiness.
Because we think it's something that just happens to us.
Right. But Denny challenges that. He wants us to shift our focus.
Okay.
And instead of waiting for some lucky break,
Uh-huh.
he encourages us to invest in ourselves.
Like what kinds of things?
Well, things like personal growth,
Right.
pursuing activities that bring us genuine joy.
Yeah, putting in the effort to actually create happiness.
Exactly. It makes you think about where we're putting our energy.
Right.
Are we chasing those quick fixes, or are we actually building lasting happiness through our own efforts?
It's a good question to ask ourselves, I think.
Definitely.
Mm.
And Denny believes we have way more control over our happiness than we might realize.
Yeah, I can see that.
He encourages us to put money on our own success, by investing in our own personal development.
Instead of hoping someone else will hand it to us.
Exactly. And another really interesting part of his philosophy is his focus on the power of our brains.
Oh, yeah, she's big on that.
He calls it our greatest asset.
Hmm.
But like any powerful tool, it needs proper care and fuel to really function at its best.
Okay, like a high-performance engine.
Exactly.
Right.
And exercise is like the high-octane fuel that our brains need to run smoothly.
So we're not just talking about physical fitness here.
Right. We're talking about giving our brains the energy they need to achieve those goals.
Uh-huh, because it all works together.
Absolutely. But it's not just about physical fuel either. Denny also talks about feeding our minds with knowledge.
Oh, hey, that makes sense.
Reading, learning, exposing ourselves to new ideas.
Like a well-rounded diet for the brain.
Exactly. So it's a two-pronged approach: physical and mental nourishment.
Got it. I'm already thinking about what books I need to add to my list.
Me too. He even suggests something as simple as brainstorming can be really stimulating for our brains.
Yeah, just getting those creative juices flowing.
Right.
Yeah.
It's like a mental workout.
I like that.
Now, another fascinating area Denny explores is the role of belief
Okay, belief in ourselves.
in achieving success. Yeah. And he has some really interesting observations about self-confidence.
Uh-huh.
He points out that we often approach self-confidence from a negative perspective.
Oh, what do you mean?
We focus on what we lack instead of what we already have.
Ah, yeah, we're always comparing ourselves to others.
Exactly. And we get stuck in this cycle of self-doubt.
Like we're setting ourselves up to feel inadequate.
Right. And he tells this anecdote about a video his company produced for HSBC Bank
Okay.
It was for their employees.
Mm-hmm.
And it was all about building self-confidence.
Sounds useful.
Well, it became the most requested item in the bank's library.
Wow. So there's definitely a need for it.
Exactly. It shows that people really want to feel more confident.
Yeah.
But maybe they're hesitant to talk about it openly.
Like it's a secret desire.
Exactly. And Denny introduces this really cool concept of the brain as a box.
Okay.
It's filled with both positive and negative information.
Mm-hmm.
And we have the power to choose what we let in.
Makes sense.
So if you're constantly feeding ourselves negativity,
Yeah.
it's going to affect our beliefs and our actions.
So we need to be mindful of what we're putting into that box.
Exactly. He calls it controlling the input
Okay.
to influence the output.
Which is our thoughts, feelings, actions.
Right. And he suggests consciously choosing positive inputs.
Like what kinds of things?
Well, things like inspirational books,
Hmm.
uplifting conversations, even paying attention to our own self-talk.
He said it's about being proactive and shaping our own mental environment.
Exactly. We need to be the guardians of our own minds,
Yeah.
filtering out that negativity and focusing on what empowers us.
I like that analogy. We have more control than we think.
Absolutely.
Mhm.
And this leads us to another important part of Denny's philosophy, the influence of conditioning.
Conditioning, like how we're shaped by our experiences.
Exactly. He identifies three main types of conditioning that affect our beliefs and behaviors:
Okay, what are they?
childhood, environment, and past experiences.
Interesting. So he's saying our past plays a big role.
He does, and he tells this funny story about his mother blaming his childhood misbehavior on the devil.
Uh-huh. Oh, wow.
But it illustrates how early influences, even seemingly small ones, can stick with us.
Yeah, for sure. It makes you think about what devils we might still be battling today.
Right. Those ingrained beliefs that might be holding us back without us even realizing it.
That's a good point.
Then he talks about the impact of our environment, saying we tend to conform to the norms and behaviors of the people we spend the most time with.
Oh, yeah, like the saying, you're the average of the 5 people you spend the most time with.
Exactly. So choosing our company wisely is super important.
Definitely. It makes you think about who you're surrounding yourself with.
Right. Are they lifting you up or dragging you down?
Yeah, good question.
And finally, Denny talks about the impact of past experiences, both the good and the bad.
Okay, so how our past successes and failures shape our confidence?
Right. Successes can breed confidence, while failures can lead to self-doubt.
That makes sense.
But he doesn't believe we're trapped by our past. He encourages us to learn from both our triumphs and our setbacks, seeing them as stepping stones on the path to success.
So like using those experiences to fuel our growth.
Exactly. He even brings up Nelson Mandela as an example
Oh, wow. Powerful example.
of someone who overcame unimaginable hardship, but emerged with a spirit of forgiveness and a focus on the future.
Inspiring.
It's a reminder that we all have the power to choose how we interpret and respond to our experiences.
We can dwell on the past or use it to propel us forward.
Right. And this brings us to a really intriguing concept that Denny talks about: becoming lucky.
Becoming lucky. I like the sound of that.
He wants to take the mystery out of luck.
Okay.
Move it away from superstition and chance
Yeah.
and present a more proactive, achievable approach.
So we can actually create our own luck.
In a way, yes. He observes that successful people often say they were just lucky. But he suggests this might be more about modesty than actually believing in some mystical force.
So it's not about rabbit's feet or anything?
No, not at all.
Yeah.
Denny argues that we create our own luck through something he calls correct knowledge.
Okay, correct knowledge.
He breaks it down into three components: knowing where we are in life right now,
Okay,
having a clear vision of where we want to be,
got it.
and then having a plan to bridge that gap.
So it's about taking control and creating those opportunities.
Exactly, not just waiting for them to fall into our laps.
Makes sense. He's empowering us to be the architects of our own good fortune.
Exactly. He wants us to stop waiting for external forces to intervene and start taking action towards our goals.
I like that. It puts the power back in our hands.
Absolutely. And speaking of taking action, let's move on to Denny's insights on time management.
Okay, time management is always a hot topic.
Yeah, it is. And Denny stresses the importance of finding a balance between work, play, and rest.
Yeah, you can't just work all the time.
Right. It's about overall well-being and success.
Uh-huh.
And he believes that if we can align our work with something we genuinely enjoy,
Oh, that's the dream.
it is, then it's a win-win.
You're passionate about it and you're successful.
Exactly.
Yeah.
He also talks about stress management,
Yeah, that's a big one.
emphasizing time management as a key strategy for prevention.
Okay, so being organized can actually reduce stress.
He believes so, along with training, personal development, and prioritizing.
So it's a holistic approach to managing stress.
Definitely. And he tells this amazing story about Charles Schwab, the steel magnate.
Oh, yeah, I think I've heard of this.
Schwab paid a consultant a huge sum of money for a time management system.
Really? What was it?
It was actually pretty simple. It involved prioritizing tasks and focusing on the most important ones first.
Okay, so getting those big rocks in the jar first.
Exactly. And Schwab found it so effective that he credited it with helping him achieve his massive success.
Wow, so it really does work.
It's a testament to the power of organization and focus.
Yeah, if it worked for him, it can work for anyone.
And Denny takes it a step further. He doesn't just tell us to manage our time. He outlines a practical system that we can all use.
Okay, like a step-by-step guide.
Right. He emphasizes creating a daily to-do list, prioritizing tasks, and dealing with interruptions effectively.
Those are good tips.
He even gives tips for handling those unexpected things that pop up.
Yeah, life always throws curveballs.
It does. But it's about being adaptable and not letting those little fires derail our whole day.
So being in control even when things get chaotic.
Exactly. Like being the captain of our own ship, steering towards our destination even when the seas get rough.
I like that. It's a good mindset to have.
Definitely. And that brings us to the concept of self-management,
Okay, self-management.
which Denny presents as a positive and empowering activity.
Not just self-control or discipline.
Right. He uses this great analogy of Mr. Success and Mr. Failure.
I wonder who those are.
They're like these internal advisors,
Yeah.
always competing for our attention.
Oh, okay, like the angel and the devil on our shoulders.
Exactly. Mr. Success is that voice of encouragement that pushes us forward.
Uh-huh.
And Mr. Failure is that voice of fear that holds us back.
So it's about choosing which voice to listen to.
Right. We all have both of these voices inside us.
That's true.
And it's about recognizing them and making a conscious choice about who we're going to follow.
Okay, so how do we empower that Mr. Success inside us?
Well, Denny gives some really practical tips.
Okay.
He says we need to feed Mr. Success with positive affirmations.
Yeah, make sure he's well-nourished.
Exactly. Set motivational goals, break those negative patterns.
Train our minds to focus on what we want to achieve.
Exactly. Not what we're afraid of.
That's important.
He also says it's important to reward ourselves for our accomplishments, no matter how small.
Oh, yeah. Celebrate those wins.
Right. It's about acknowledging our progress and reinforcing those positive behaviors.
Creating a positive feedback loop.
Exactly. So we're fueling our motivation and moving forward.
It makes sense. It's like giving ourselves a little pat on the back.
And speaking of moving forward, let's talk about Denny's insights on goal setting.
Okay, goals are essential for success.
He believes they are. He says that every significant accomplishment starts with a goal.
You need to have that vision of where you're going.
Exactly. And he challenges the traditional idea of retirement as a complete stop.
Yeah, like you just stop doing everything.
Right. He advocates for a mindset of continuous growth,
So never stop learning and setting new goals.
even beyond our working years.
Because we still have so much potential.
Absolutely. He highlights examples of people achieving incredible things later in life.
Oh, wow. Like what?
Well, he talks about people who started new businesses, wrote books, ran marathons, all after the traditional retirement age.
That's inspiring.
It shows that potential isn't limited by age.
We can always keep growing and achieving new things.
Exactly. And Denny urges us to never stop setting goals, to always have something to look forward to.
No matter where we are in life.
Right. And finally, let's explore this powerful tool that Denny talks about. Visualization.
Visualization, like picturing ourselves achieving our goals.
Exactly. He believes it's a key ingredient for success.
I've heard about that, but I'm not sure how it works.
Where he contrasts negative visualization, like worrying and fearing the worst,
Yeah, we all do that sometime.
with positive visualization, where we imagine ourselves succeeding.
Okay, so it's about shifting our focus.
Right. Because our mental imagery can actually shape our reality.
Interesting. So if we're constantly picturing failure, we're more likely to fail.
It's possible. But if we focus on success,
Then we're more likely to achieve it.
exactly. He talks about creating a mental blueprint for what we want
Okay, I like that analogy.
and engaging all our senses as we picture ourselves achieving our goals.
So it's not just seeing it, it's feeling it, hearing it, the whole experience.
Exactly. It's like a mental rehearsal that programs our brains for success.
Wow, that's powerful.
It is. He gives some compelling examples of successful people using visualization.
Oh, like who?
Well, he talks about Roger Bannister breaking the 4-minute mile
Yeah.
and Muhammad Ali predicting his boxing victories.
They both used visualization.
They did. And it shows the power of our minds to influence our actions and outcomes.
It's amazing how our thoughts can have such a real impact.
It is. And that's just the beginning of what Denny covers in Succeed for Yourself.
There's so much to unpack in this book.
There is. But I think we've laid a good foundation here
Yeah.
for understanding his philosophy.
So where do we go from here?
Well, in the next part of our deep dive,
Okay.
we're going to explore Denny's insights on overcoming setbacks, mastering rejection, conquering negativity, and a lot more.
Sounds like it's going to get even more practical.
It is. He gives a lot of actionable advice that we can apply to our own lives.
I'm looking forward to it. This is really fascinating stuff.
Me too. Stay tuned for part 2, where we'll dive even deeper into Succeed for Yourself.
Can't wait.
All right, so we're back and ready to dig deeper into Denny's Succeed for Yourself.
Yeah, last time we were talking about setting ourselves up for success, mindset, beliefs, all that.
Right, kind of laying the groundwork. But now Denny gets into those inevitable challenges we all face.
Uh-huh. The bumps in the road.
Exactly. He doesn't pretend it's all smooth sailing.
Makes sense. It wouldn't be very realistic.
He actually dives right into those setbacks and how to deal with them.
Yeah, everyone experiences setbacks. It's how you handle them that matters.
Exactly. And what I found interesting is how Denny emphasizes this idea of viewing setbacks constructively.
Okay, so not as failures, but as opportunities.
Right. He sees them as the natural part of the growth process, not a sign that we're doing something wrong.
I like that perspective. It takes the pressure off.
It does. And he even shares a personal story about facing a major financial crisis.
Oh, wow.
It really threatened his livelihood. It was a huge setback.
So he's speaking from experience.
He is. And he says it would have been easy to just give in to negativity and despair.
Yeah, it's hard to stay positive when things are falling apart.
But Denny didn't give up. He chose to take positive action.
What did he do?
Well, he doesn't go into specifics in the book, but he talks about how he turned that crisis into an opportunity for growth.
So he found a way to turn things around.
He did. And it's a good reminder that we always have a choice in how we respond to those tough times.
We can either let them defeat us or use them to become stronger.
Exactly. He also talks about worry and how paralyzing it can be.
Oh, yeah, worry can be a real energy drain.
He describes worry as the negative use of our imagination.
Interesting way to put it.
Instead of letting it fester, he encourages us to confront our worries head on.
So not just trying to ignore them.
Right. He suggests things like writing them down or creating a worry box to process them more effectively.
Okay, so acknowledging them, but not letting them take over.
Exactly. Because dwelling on those negative possibilities only amplifies our fears.
Yeah, and it prevents us from taking action.
Exactly. And Denny believes that action is the antidote to worry.
So instead of getting stuck in our heads, we need to do something.
He encourages us to shift our focus from what we fear to what we can actually control.
So taking charge of the situation.
Right. And he challenges us to ask ourselves, what's one small step I can take right now to move forward?
Even a tiny step can make a difference.
It can. It creates momentum and helps us feel less overwhelmed.
Like we're making progress.
Now, another obstacle Denny tackles is the fear of rejection.
Oh, yeah, that's a big one for a lot of people.
It is. It holds us back from going after what we want.
Whether it's in our careers, relationships, or just life in general.
Right. And Denny offers some strategies for overcoming that fear.
Okay, I'm all ears.
He talks about the importance of persistence.
So not giving up after the first no?
Exactly. But also knowing when to persevere and when to maybe change course.
So there's a balance there.
There is. He tells this story about persistently pursuing a business opportunity with a bank. And it shows how no doesn't always mean never.
Sometimes it just takes a little more effort.
And a willingness to build those relationships.
Yeah, people do business with people they like and trust.
Exactly. And Denny reminds us that rejection isn't always personal.
That's an important point.
It could be about timing, circumstances,
Okay.
things beyond our control.
So we shouldn't take it as a reflection of our worth.
Right. It's easy to internalize rejection and let it damage our confidence.
But we need to try and see it objectively.
Denny encourages us to view rejection as an opportunity for learning and growth.
Okay, so what can I learn from this?
Exactly. And how can I improve my approach for next time? Turning those no's into valuable feedback.
Instead of letting them discourage us.
Now, another section that really stood out to me is Denny's discussion of negativity.
Yeah, negativity can be so toxic.
He talks about how pervasive it is in our society
It's everywhere you look.
and the impact it has on our well-being and our success.
It can really drag us down.
He specifically talks about negative affirmations.
Those self-defeating thoughts.
Right. the ones that program our subconscious minds to limit our potential.
Like we're setting ourselves up for failure.
It's easy to fall into those negative thought patterns.
Especially when we're surrounded by so much negativity in the world.
The news, social media, even our own inner critic can be pretty harsh.
Yeah, we need to be careful what we're letting in.
Denny challenges us to become more aware of those negative affirmations and to consciously choose positive inputs.
So it's a conscious effort.
It is. He gives some practical steps for combating negativity.
Like what?
Well, he says we need to challenge those negative thoughts when they come up.
Don't just accept them as truth.
Right. And try to avoid negative situations as much as possible.
Yeah, limit exposure to those negative influences.
He also suggests surrounding ourselves with uplifting influences.
People who bring us up instead of down.
Exactly. And he even suggests something as simple as smiling more often.
I wouldn't have thought of that.
He says it can have a positive impact on our outlook and how others perceive us.
Makes sense. It's like putting out good vibes.
And it reminds us that we have more control over our mental state than we realize.
We can choose to focus on the good, even when things are tough.
And that leads us to another quality Denny believes is essential for success. Enthusiasm.
Enthusiasm. Yeah, I can see how that would be important.
He sees it as a key ingredient.
Like a secret weapon.
In a way, yeah. He says it can inspire action, help us overcome obstacles, even attract positive opportunities.
So it's not just about being happy, it's about having that energy and drive.
Exactly. But he cautions against forced or artificial enthusiasm.
Yeah, that can be off-putting.
He believes true enthusiasm is genuine.
It comes from within.
It's a natural expression of our passion and excitement for what we're doing.
So it's about finding that spark?
Exactly. And Denny gives some tips for cultivating and expressing that genuine enthusiasm.
Like what?
Well, he suggests setting goals that truly excite us.
Something we're passionate about.
Right. And using physical techniques like power, posing, to boost our energy levels.
I've heard of that.
And even just choosing to be cheerful.
Like making a conscious effort to be positive.
Exactly. And he suggests surrounding ourselves with enthusiastic people.
Yeah, their energy can be contagious.
He believes it can. It's about creating an environment that fosters and amplifies that natural enthusiasm.
So it's a combination of internal and external factors.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Now, another essential ingredient for success, according to Denny, is self-motivation.
Okay, self-motivation. That's a tough one sometimes.
It can be, but Denny views it as the driving force behind achieving our goals.
Like the fuel that keeps us going.
Exactly. And he connects it to our innate desire to avoid pain and seek pleasure.
That makes sense.
We're naturally motivated to move towards things that feel good and away from things that feel bad.
So we can use that to our advantage.
Denny believes we can, but he acknowledges that achieving our goals often requires effort and sacrifice.
Yeah, there's no such thing as a free lunch.
We have to push through those moments of discomfort to reach the desired outcome.
So it's about having the discipline to keep going even when it's hard.
And Denny gives some insights into the common pitfalls of giving up on goals too soon.
Oh yeah, we've all been there.
He encourages us to look at our own patterns.
Like when do we tend to quit and what triggers those feelings of defeat?
Exactly. Once we understand those patterns, we can start to address them.
Okay, so self-awareness is key.
It is. And he offers some strategies for boosting self-motivation.
Like what? I need all the help I can get.
Well, he talks about setting clear and compelling goals that really resonate with us.
Oh, something that gets us excited.
Right. And surrounding ourselves with motivated people who inspire us.
Yeah, having a good support system is important.
He also suggests using positive affirmations to counteract those voices of self-doubt.
So talking to ourselves in a positive way.
Exactly. It's about creating that support system for our goals.
Both internally and externally.
And he reminds us that self-motivation is a skill we can develop.
Like a muscle we can strengthen.
The more we practice, the easier it becomes to stay focused and motivated, even when things get tough.
Okay, so it's something we can work on.
Now, another area Denny emphasizes is the importance of communication.
Communication. Yeah, that's crucial in every aspect of life.
He believes it's essential for achieving success and building strong relationships.
Both personally and professionally.
Exactly. And he introduces this concept of understanding different communication styles.
Oh yeah, like visual, auditory, kinesthetic.
Right. He encourages us to identify our own style and recognize the styles of others.
Because everyone communicates differently.
And miscommunication can lead to a lot of problems.
Yeah, misunderstandings, conflicts, all sorts of things.
So by understanding how different people prefer to communicate, we can become more effective communicators ourselves.
Makes sense. It's about meeting people where they are.
And Denny offers some practical tips for improving our communication skills.
Okay, I'm always up for learning how to communicate better.
Well, he stresses the importance of active listening,
Really tuning in to what the other person is saying.
not just waiting for our turn to speak.
Yeah, it's easy to fall into that trap.
He also emphasizes respect, speaking less and listening more,
That's a good one.
expressing genuine interest in others, and offering constructive criticism.
So it's about being both a good speaker and a good listener.
Exactly. Communication is a two-way street.
It's about creating a space for dialogue and understanding.
Now, in this next section, Denny shifts the focus from professional success to success at home,
Okay, so applying these principles to our personal lives.
specifically within the context of family and relationships.
Yeah, that's an important area too.
He tells this story about his do-gooder neighbors and their troubled son,
Oh,
and it highlights the importance of prioritizing our own families before trying to fix the world.
So making sure our own house is in order.
It's a good reminder to make sure we're not neglecting those closest to us while chasing our dreams.
That's a good point. It's easy to get caught up in our own ambitions.
Denny offers some practical advice for building strong and happy families.
Okay, like what?
Well, he emphasizes regular family meals as a time for connection,
Yeah, sitting down together and talking.
encouraging shared opinions, expressing affection, prioritizing family time,
So making quality time a priority.
fostering humor, creating surprises, just little things that strengthen those bonds.
Sounds like good advice.
He believes that nurturing those family bonds creates a foundation of support and love.
That can help us through the tough times.
Exactly. It's about creating a safe and loving environment where everyone can thrive. All right, so let's talk about something that's probably on a lot of people's minds when they think about success. Money.
Yeah, finances. That's a big one.
And Denny doesn't shy away from it in Succeed for Yourself. He actually dedicates a whole section to it. But what I appreciate is that he makes it clear that money alone doesn't equal happiness.
Yeah, there's that saying, money can't buy happiness.
Exactly. And Denny actually tells this story about his accountant,
Oh.
who had noticed that some of his wealthiest clients were actually some of the most miserable people he knew. They had all the money in the world, but were still deeply unhappy.
Wow. It's like they achieved financial abundance, but not true fulfillment.
Exactly. And Denny uses this to illustrate how just chasing money for its own sake can leave us feeling empty.
Right. It's like that saying, you can be rich and miserable or poor and miserable, but at least if you're rich and miserable, you can afford nicer things. Yeah.
But jokes aside, Denny's point is that true wealth is about more than just our bank balance.
Absolutely. It's about finding that balance between financial security and overall well-being.
So instead of just asking, how can I make a lot of money?
Uh-huh.
Maybe we should be asking, what kind of work will bring me joy and allow me to make a positive impact?
Right. Finding that sweet spot where passion and purpose align with financial stability.
Exactly. And Denny does offer some practical advice for achieving financial success responsibly.
Oh, like what?
He talks about controlling expenses, not living beyond our means,
Makes sense.
making informed investments,
Yeah, not putting all your eggs in one basket.
and even practicing generosity.
Oh, that's interesting. You wouldn't think someone focused on financial success would be big on giving away money.
Right. But Denny sees it as a key part of true wealth.
I see. So it's about abundance, not just for ourselves, but also for others.
Exactly. He believes that true wealth includes not just financial abundance, but also a sense of purpose, fulfillment, and contribution to something bigger than ourselves.
That's a good point. It's about more than just what's in our wallets.
Definitely. So as we wrap up this deep dive into Succeed for Yourself, I'm struck by how much Denny's philosophy emphasizes creating a fulfilling life, not just achieving outward success.
Yeah, it's a holistic approach that considers our happiness, relationships, work, and overall sense of purpose.
One thing that's really stuck with me is Denny's concept of cutting your losses.
Oh, yeah, he talks about that in the context of financial decisions, right?
He does. But I was thinking, what if we applied that same principle to our negative thoughts and those self-limiting beliefs that hold us back?
That's an interesting idea. Like consciously choosing to cut our losses on negativity.
Exactly. What if we stopped dwelling on past mistakes, what ifs, and all that self-doubt?
We could free up so much mental energy to focus on the things that actually matter.
It's a challenge to be more mindful of the thoughts we allow to take root.
Right, to choose to focus on what empowers us and moves us forward.
Thanks for joining us on this deep dive into Richard Denny's Succeed for Yourself. We hope you found it as insightful and thought-provoking as we did. Remember, success isn't a destination, it's a journey. and it's a journey we can choose to make both fulfilling and meaningful.